She lived in a palace of silk and gold, looking down at the man who touched the dirt. She called him a servant. She called him just a gardener. But behind the marble walls of Ashford Manor, a 19-year-old secret is about to shatter her world. What if the man you despise is the one who gave up everything to save you? Discover a story of hidden roots and the true meaning of wealth.
In the Garden of Red Roses. When the first light of morning hit the marble facade of Ashford Manor, the red roses in the garden were still wet with the previous night's dew. The windows of the 3-story mansion glowed with a golden shimmer, as if the building itself were a jewelry box protecting its most precious gem. In the vast garden, amidst the lush green grass, Victor leaned over, breathing in the scent of the earth as he reached his hands toward the thorny branches of the roses. This 45-year-old man was like a statue carrying the exhaustion of years on his back. Every movement was heavy, every look introspective. Every time his hands touched the soil, he seemed to murmur a prayer, whispering something to himself as he planted each rose sapling. Diana watched the garden from the second-floor balcony. The 19-year-old girl's long black hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her purple morning gown fit her body gracefully. Her fingers were adorned with jewels, her lips always carried a faint smile, and her eyes were frozen in an expression that looked down upon everything. As she watched Victor, a familiar feeling of disgust mixed with superiority welled up inside her. That man was just a gardener, a shadow standing at the bottom rung of her world, touching the dirt, sweating in the sun, silently waiting for orders. Diana took a deep breath, looked away from Victor's hunched back, and turned inside. She looked at herself in the mirror, a perfect face, a flawless life, a wonderful future. Her room's walls were covered in pink silk, and a crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling. Beside her bed stood gold-framed photos, pictures taken on vacations with her father, newspaper clippings of headlines, proof of wealth and success. Everything was perfect. Everything was worthy of her, because she was Marcus Ashford's only daughter, the heir to the city's wealthiest businessman, a young woman whose name appeared in the papers, whom everyone looked at with admiration. Every morning she woke up, looked in the mirror, and thanked her father. This life had been bestowed upon her. Luck, fate, or perhaps a blessing from God. Looking at people like Victor made her feel at ease. She was grateful she wasn't one of them. Downstairs, the aroma of breakfast being prepared in the kitchen wafted up. As Diana descended the stairs, her footsteps echoed on the marble. Her father, Marcus, was in the large hall in front of the library, staring out the window with a coffee cup in his hand. This 52-year-old man, though carrying the lines of time on his face, still had a powerful stance. His gray suit fit him perfectly, and the silver strands of hair sat like a crown around his head. But there was a restlessness in his eyes, a deep, suppressed weight he had carried for years. "Good morning, Father," Diana said, her voice light and filled with habitual affection. Marcus turned, looked at his daughter, and smiled, but deep within that smile was a shadow Diana never noticed, a regret, a fear, a secret. The cup in his hand trembled slightly, his lips parted, but he said nothing. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well?" "As always," Diana said, sitting at the table. "Victor is out in the garden early again. It's like that man never rests. I wonder why he works like that, as if he's trying to prove something." Marcus's fingers tightened around the cup. He remained silent for a moment, watching Victor's hunched back through the window. Then he turned his head and looked at his daughter. Pain appeared in his eyes, which he quickly hid. "He's a very hard-working man. He's been here for years. Loyal, honest, a good person." "Yes, but still, he's just a gardener," Diana said, spreading butter on her bread.
Her voice was indifferent, as if she were talking about an object. I mean, there's a world of difference between us and them. We are lucky, they are not. It's that simple. Marcus said nothing. He drank his coffee, swallowed hard, trying to suppress the storm inside. Diana knew nothing, nothing at all, and Marcus continued to carry the burden that grew heavier every day. Every time he looked at his daughter, he wanted to tell her the truth, but his fears stopped him every time. The fear of losing her, the fear of being hated, the fear of losing her love.
The days flowed by. Diana woke up late, went shopping in the afternoon, and met with friends in the evening. Her life proceeded in a flawless order, as if it were part of a pre-written script. But every time she saw Victor, she felt that small twinge of disgust. That man reminded her of her own luck. He toiled with the earth, he sweated, he submitted silently. Diana, on the other hand, shone, rose, and ruled. That's how the world was, some on top, some at the bottom, and Diana was content being on top. One afternoon, when Diana went out to the garden, she found Victor among the roses. The man had his hands in the dirt, delicately planting a sprout despite the thorns. His fingers were gentle, yet determined, as if that sapling were his most precious treasure. Diana approached, her heels clicking on the gravel. Victor looked up, his eyes meeting Diana's for a moment. What was in that look? Pain? Longing? Or just exhaustion? Diana didn't understand, nor did she want to. "Are these roses for me?" Diana asked mockingly. Victor curled his lips and bowed his head. "For the garden," he said softly, "just for the garden. But if you like them, that would make me happy too." Diana shrugged and turned away. But that day, the look in Victor's eyes burned into her mind. There was something there, something he wanted to say. But Diana didn't listen. She didn't want to listen. She went back inside the manor and forgot about Victor, or tried to. At dinner, Marcus was quieter than usual. He didn't even touch the food on his plate, just watched the sunset through the window. The garden roses glowed with a red light. Diana noticed, but didn't care. Her father was like this sometimes. Work, stress, responsibilities. But that night, a storm was brewing inside Marcus. The decision he made years ago, the secret he kept, had now collapsed upon him with an unbearable weight. His hand trembled as he drank his coffee, the cup clattering against the saucer. Diana looked up. "Father, are you okay?" Marcus smiled, a fake, forced smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just a bit tired." But his heart was breaking as he looked into Diana's eyes. Those eyes weren't his. They were Victor's eyes. They were Elena's eyes. And this truth was consuming Marcus every day. Near midnight, Diana had fallen asleep when she heard a sound. Her door had opened slightly, and footsteps were coming from the hallway. She opened her eyes and waited in the dark. Then she heard her father's voice. It was coming from the library. He was talking to someone. Her heart began to race. Something was wrong. "Marcus, you can't hide this any longer," said a woman's voice. It didn't sound familiar. It was soft but firm, filled with pain. "I know," Marcus said, his voice trembling. "But how can I tell her? How can I look at her and explain all these years, all these lies? She thinks I'm her father. She loves me. And I'm afraid of losing her." "The truth will come out sooner or later, and you must tell her before I do, because she is my daughter, and I want to see her. I want to tell her the truth." Diana's heart began to beat wildly in her chest. She pushed the door a little wider and looked toward the library. Marcus was there, and in front of him stood a woman in her 40s, simply dressed. There was deep pain on the woman's face, and her eyes were filled with tears. Her hands were shaking as she held an envelope. "Victor's wife," Marcus whispered. "You must tell her, or I will, but Diana needs to know. I can't wait any longer. I can't carry this burden." Diana's hand let go of the doorknob, and she stumbled back. Victor's wife. Why was her father talking to her? Why was it so serious, so fragile? Her head was spinning, her stomach churning. The woman handed an envelope to Marcus. This is Diana's birth certificate, the only document that shows the truth. You've hidden this for years, but it's Diana's right now. She should know whose daughter she is. Victor and I have watched her from afar for years. We saw that she was happy, but at the same time, we saw her despise Victor. We saw her look down on her own father, and this is unbearable. Marcus took the envelope, his hands trembling, his eyes filled with tears. I'm afraid of losing her, Marcus said, his voice breaking. She is my everything. Without her, my life has no meaning. You've already lost her, the woman said painfully. When she learns the truth, she may not forgive you, but at least she will know the truth. And maybe one day she will understand. Maybe one day she will understand why we left her, why you took her, and how much we actually loved her. Diana couldn't take it anymore. She opened the door and entered the library. Both turned to her. Marcus's face went pale. The woman froze, her eyes locked onto Diana, and in that moment, Diana saw herself in the woman's eyes. Diana, Marcus said, his voice muffled. What is going on? Diana asked, her voice sharp and shaky. Why is Victor's wife here? Why are you talking about my birth certificate? What do you mean? The woman looked at Diana, her eyes filling with tears. She took a step forward but couldn't go any further and stopped, clasping her hands. Diana, the woman whispered. Marcus stepped forward, reaching out to his daughter, but Diana pulled back. Tell me, Diana shouted. Tell me right now, what is happening here? Marcus took a deep breath, his chest heaving. He closed his eyes, then opened them. Then he spoke. As the words poured from his lips, Diana's world crumbled piece by piece. You are Victor's daughter, Diana. Victor is your biological father, and your mother is... Marcus looked at the woman. That is her. Her name is Elena. Years ago, they were very young and poor. They got married, but Victor had no job and Elena had no family. She got pregnant, but they knew they couldn't take care of you. They had no future. I wasn't married then. I had no children. I made them an offer. In exchange for taking care of you, raising you, and giving you the best life, I wanted to adopt you. They accepted, because they loved you, because they wanted the best for you. I took you as a baby. I raised you as my own daughter, but I kept the truth from you all this time. And Victor, I employed Victor here because he wanted to be near you. Elena would also come sometimes, watching you from a distance, but you never knew. Diana's legs shook. She struggled to stand. She leaned against the wall, unable to breathe. Her chest tightened, her head spun. No, she whispered. No, that's not possible. This must be a joke. You're lying to me. Elena stepped forward, her eyes filled with both pain and longing. I am your mother, Elena said softly. My name is Elena, and Victor, he is your father. We never wanted to leave you, but there was nothing we could do. Marcus gave you a life. We couldn't. But every day we thought of you. Every day we missed you. And now I see you, and you're so beautiful. You are so successful, and I am so proud. Diana shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. She looked at the floor, then the ceiling, unable to focus on anything. Then why are you telling me now? She asked, her voice trembling with pain. Why did you wait for years? Why did you lie to me? Why are you deceiving me? Marcus stepped forward, hands outstretched. Because I was afraid of losing you, he said, tears streaming down his cheeks. I loved you so much, Diana. You are my daughter, not by blood, but by my heart. Every day I looked at you and loved you. When you went to school, when you graduated, when you laughed. I was proud of you every moment. But I knew that one day you would learn the truth, and when that day came, I knew I would lose you." Diana collapsed to the floor, covering her face with her hands. Everything inside her had been shattered. The wealth, the privilege, the pride, it was all a lie. She was Victor's daughter, the gardener's daughter, the daughter of the man she had looked down upon, the man she had despised. Her whole life was a lie. Her whole identity was a lie. Elena knelt beside her, placing a hand on Diana's shoulder. Diana flinched, but didn't pull away. "We love you," Elena said quietly. "We always have. But we tried to do what was best for you. And Marcus, he truly looked after you. He protected you. He loved you. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe we should have told you the truth sooner. But please, please try to understand us. Please forgive us." Diana raised her head, her eyes red and swollen. She looked first at Elena, then at Marcus. There was anger, pain, and confusion inside her. But at the same time, there was something else, an understanding, an acceptance, perhaps a mercy slowly being born. "I didn't know who I was," Diana said, her voice breaking. I thought I was special, privileged. I looked at Victor and despised him. I looked at him and looked down on him. But he is my father, and I was so terrible to him." Marcus knelt down, holding Diana's hands. "You are still special," Marcus said. "You are still the same person. You just know the truth now. And maybe this will make you stronger. Maybe this will make you a better person." Diana wiped her tears and took a deep breath. Then she stood up and walked toward the window. Outside, the roses in the garden shimmered in the moonlight. The roses Victor had planted. The roses her father had planted. The roses her own father had planted. That night, Diana couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the past. Every memory, every laugh, every happy moment, they were all built on a lie. But at the same time, they were all filled with true love. Marcus had loved her, Elena had loved her, Victor had loved her. They all loved her, just in different ways. The next morning, Diana woke up early. Her eyes were swollen and her head ached from lack of sleep, but a decision had formed inside her. She put on a simple dress, tied her hair back, and went downstairs. Marcus was in the library. He hadn't slept at all. Elena was resting in the guest room. Diana went out to the garden. The cool morning air hit her face, and the grass was wet under her feet. Victor was there, as always, tending to the roses. Diana approached slowly. Victor looked up, looking at his daughter. What was in his eyes? Fear, shame, longing, hope, all of them together. Diana stopped and waited in silence for a while. Then she spoke. "I know," she said quietly. "I know the truth." Victor's hands trembled, his eyes filling with tears. He tried to stand up, but his legs wouldn't hold. He collapsed to the ground. "Diana," he whispered, I am sorry. Diana stepped forward and knelt beside Victor. She breathed in the scent of the earth and touched the thorn of a rose. Then she looked into Victor's eyes. "Will you teach me?" Diana said, her voice soft. "Will you teach me gardening? Will you teach me how to be you?" Tears streamed down Victor's cheeks. He nodded and smiled. For the first time in years, he truly smiled. "Of course," Victor said. "Of course I will. I'll teach you everything, whatever you want." Diana put her hand on the soil, kneeling beside Victor as she pulled a sprout from the ground. For the first time in her life, she touched the earth, and in that touch, something changed. The pride was gone. The arrogance was gone. The empty vanity was gone. In its place came something else, a humility, an understanding, a love. From on, Diana went out to the garden early every morning. She worked with Victor. The hands that used to be clean and full of jewels were now filled with soil and love. She slowly began to talk with Elena and Marcus.
Her anger didn't pass immediately, nor did her pain vanish. But over time, she began to understand. Over time, she began to forgive. Over time, she began to love. Weeks passed. Diana was now working in the garden for hours, learning from Victor, talking with Elena, walking with Marcus. She was getting a little better every day, becoming more whole every day. She was no longer a rich girl. She was just a girl. She was no longer privileged. She was just loved. And that was enough. One evening, as the sun was setting, Diana was sitting in the garden with Victor. Both were tired but happy. Red roses swayed around them, the wind lightly touching the leaves. "Father," Diana said, the word coming out like that for the first time. Victor turned, his eyes shining, his mouth hung open, his eyes filling with tears. "Yes, my daughter?" Diana smiled, her tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you," she said, "not for leaving me, for teaching me this garden, for teaching me the truth, for teaching me love." Victor put his hand on Diana's hand, holding it tight. "I thank you too, for being my daughter again, for giving me the chance to be forgiven, for giving me the chance to love." Marcus and Elena watched them from a distance. The old fear was no longer on Marcus's face. In its place was a peace. Elena was smiling through her tears. "Maybe it all had to be this way," Elena said quietly. "Maybe," said Marcus. "Maybe family isn't just built on blood, but on love. Maybe we are all of us, a family."
That night, the stars shone over Ashford Manor. The roses in the garden swayed in the wind, and Diana, for the first time in her life, felt she was truly home, because now she knew wealth was not a gift. Love was a gift. Privilege was not a chance. Truth was a chance, and she had both. When morning came, Diana went out to the garden again. But this time, there was no pride or arrogance. There was only love, only peace. They planted soil with Victor, planted roses, and smiled. Elena came and joined them. Marcus came too, being with his family in the garden. And that morning, the red roses in the garden bloomed more beautifully than ever. Because now, those roses were growing not just with a gardener's skill, but with a father's love. And Diana was no longer the daughter of one father, but of two fathers, a mother, and an infinite love. And that meant a real home. That meant a real family. Months passed. Diana was a different person now. She didn't see her old friends. She didn't go to luxury parties. She worked in the garden, talked with Victor, cooked with Elena, read books with Marcus. Her life had changed, but she was happier, more at peace, more real. One day, while sitting in the garden, Diana saw a child, the neighbor's child, looking at the garden. "Hello," Diana said, smiling. "Hello," the child said. "Are you rich?" Diana thought, then nodded. "No," she said. "I am a loved person, and that is much more valuable than wealth." The child smiled and ran away. Diana watched him go, smiling. Then she turned to Victor. "Father, what are we planting today?" "New roses," Victor said, "for a new beginning." And Diana put her hand on the earth, held a new rose sprout, and began to plant. As the sun set, the garden was covered in golden light. Victor, Elena, Marcus, and Diana were all there together, a family bound not by blood, but by love. And the red roses in the garden whispered their story to the wind, a story of love, forgiveness, and rebirth. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next story.